I work with people in their 20s and 30s, and the whole point of what I do is to give people practical solutions of how they can actually make changes in their lives.
Right.
Rather than just talking about like, okay, well, here are all of my problems. So I wanted to create something that actually helps them fix those problems.
Right. That's great. I mean, we need more of that in the world because as you can see, there's just a lot of negativity spreading out, especially in these moments. And when I saw your videos, I was like, man, this guy's just great. He's killing it.
Thank you, man.
Like spreading that positivity and that mindset, man. Like that, I feel like what do you think it is? What's going on with the people? Is it social media or there's definitely a change, right? Like I feel like we have more.
You mean
more people depressed or more anxiety? At least I feel I never heard of this as much back then.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the current pandemic has definitely exacerbated people's emotional issues, but in general, the reason that I wanted to help this population, people, I guess you could call them millennials, but people really ages, 20 to 35, 36, is that I looked at this population, which you and I are both part of, and I studied them, and what I realized is that next to World War II veterans, next to Vietnam War veterans, we are the highest users of anti-anxiety and antidepressant pills of anyone in the country.
Right.
We have the highest suicide rate is right here in this generation. We are more depressed, less happy than we have ever been. And so there is something about this generation, millennials, that is deeply emotionally maladaptive. We are generally really bad at having romantic relationships, and we've got a lot of issues between the sexes, men and women, in the way we relate and the way we date and all that kind of stuff. And, of course, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot to be said for our entrepreneurship, our creativity, the fact that we believe in social justice, all kinds of good things about this generation too.
Right.
But, from an emotional perspective, my question, it was the same as yours, which is, why are people who are supposed to be at the prime of their lives so incredibly unfulfilled and depressed and unhappy? And so I set out on a mission to really change that and to fix that. And we can talk for hours and hours about what the causes of that is,
yeah.
Whether it's from childhood or social media or, parenting or schooling, pressure, financial issues, the economy, so forth and so on. But my question really is, where do we go from here? And how do we change that?
That's great. That's rather than focusing. Yeah, I mean, we do got to focus. Where's this coming from? But something we're ignoring is how do we deal with it? And I feel like the solution is not just a pill. That's everybody wants a quick fix.
Right.
And that's not the right way to go about it.
Yeah, and I'm not, I've been on psychiatric medication myself for my own issues.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on antidepressants, I've been on anti-anxiety medications. It's not that there's anything wrong with them, but that is something that will give you a little boost, and it's something that will sort of act as a Band-Aid, but you can't put a Band-Aid over a battle wound. You have to figure out what's going on under the surface.
Can you describe, for me and for other people who perhaps they can't relate, like, because like you said, you suffer from depression, you said, or
and anxiety.
Yeah. Like I said, that's something I everybody suffered a little, depression. But if you're saying you took medication, I mean, it must have been more serious than others, I'm assuming. And explain that for us. Like, what is it that you feel, or
Sure.
and not just what you feel, but how others can help people when you're in your position, so that way they don't get to that point where they're suicidal or something like that.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
how can we approach you, or should we give you your own space?
That's a great question. So, I've had three major emotional issues in my life. One is anxiety, another was depression, and a third was anorexia. I was severely anorexic during college. For at least 2 to 3 years, I was 70 pounds underweight. I'm 5'9", and I was like 112 pounds or something like that. So very, very sickly. And it's never just one issue. It's never just you're happy and your entire life is perfect, but you have depression. There is a confluence of factors with any sort of emotional maladaptive disorder, especially with eating disorders. So what I'm saying is that everything is connected. And, common symptoms can manifest themselves in different ways for each one of these disorders. But for me, like, for example, the giveaway that I was depressed is that I had no motivation to do anything and I would constantly sleep.
Okay.
So for some people, depression comes in the form of undersleeping, using drugs and alcohol and things like that and staying up all night, skipping work, things like that. For other people, it's the opposite, where they feel incredibly unmotivated, unproductive, and they just sleep all day long. That's like what I used to do in college on the weekends and things like that. I would just stay in my dorm and just sleep all day long because I had no motivation to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Anxiety, on the other hand, manifests itself in different ways for different people, but some of the common symptoms of anxiety are that it's a fight or flight or freeze response. Fight, flight, or freeze, which means you either feel the need to get up and do something and fix the problem right away. That would be fighting. Or you feel the need to get up and run away from the problem, escape from your issue.
Yeah.
That would be flying or flight. Or you're completely paralyzed. You can't even make a decision. You have no idea what to do. You're just freaking out. That would be freeze. And I've experienced fight, flight, and freeze. Anytime I've had an anxiety, episode, can come in the form of panic attacks. It can be heart palpitations. It can be sweaty palms. Or it can just be something called generalized anxiety, which means that whenever you wake up in the morning or whenever you're going throughout your day, you just have this silent hum of anxiety. You're just always a little on edge. You don't feel calm. You're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just this undercurrent of feeling uneasy and unhappy, is sort of how I would describe generalized anxiety. And then it can be triggered by whatever happens throughout your day.
And was this something you would feel on the daily, or?
Yeah.
Oh man,
it's terrible.
That's terrible.
And I don't even have anxiety that bad. Yeah. There are some people that they're an anxious mess 24/7.
Yeah.
And they got to be on serious medications and things like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story for me for anxiety. The only time I had anxiety, I had I guess what you would call a panic attack or anxiety attack. I don't know what they call it. But I only had one, and that was because I was writing my report for I think it was psychology, and it was due in the morning. I was almost done, maybe one more page from completing my essay, and I
got deleted.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It got deleted.
No.
I hit some button wrong, or the whole thing deleted. And I just that was the first time in my life I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I really felt like I was having a heart attack. I was like,
yeah.
Like, just this massive feeling right here in my chest. My chest, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was intense, but maybe it lasted like maybe 3 minutes. But it was intense because I just thought to myself, I was like, all right, Carlos, like, you're stressing out about this. Nothing's gonna happen. So you need to get the fuck back on it and then and start over. I mean, it sucked, but and I think I only had like maybe 6 hours.
Damn.
So I had to rewrite the whole thing, and like luckily, I memorized most of it when I was writing it. So
sure.
So I was really blessed in that way that I was able to memorize it. So
now there are people who have that feeling in their chest, to a lesser degree, all day long.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like.
And then there are people who get that feeling in their chest in the form of a panic attack in the middle of the night every night.
Yeah.
And most of those people are people that you and I know. They're in our generation. They're in our cohort. The anxiety of this generation is absolutely through the roof. And it permeates into every aspect of our lives. It permeates into career trajectory, into relationships, into finances. It permeates into our relationships with our family. So, there's sort of a debate about how much anxiety and depression are caused by chemical imbalances in the brain and in the body, and how much they are caused by environmental external factors, such as our upbringing or our beliefs or experiences that we've had.
Yeah, those stressful situations, those triggers.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, I think it's generally accepted that it can be a combination of both of those things, that it's both nature and nurture. It's both your environment and some issues with your physiology or your brain, or how much serotonin you produce, so forth and so on. And I'm not an expert on the science of the brain and how that, how all of that works. I mean, I know a little bit, but I think the point is, the point that I always harp on is that using medication is a tool to help get you out of the darkest and most scary place of your life, to help you, to drag you out of those holes. But it's going to drag you out of the hole a little bit. It's not going to solve any of the problems. Right. So even though your anxiety or your depression or whatever your emotional issue is might be caused by some sort of physiological factor, you're only going to solve it with external environmental changes, meaning changes to your behavior, right. Changes to the way that you think. You're not going to solve it with a pill. Yeah. So, and that's where I come in. I tell my clients all the time, listen, if you're seriously depressed, like, let's do an assessment. You need to go to a psychiatrist, things like that, because replacing some of those healthy chemicals in your brain will help you. But I would say most of my patients are not people who have clinical diagnosed disorders. They're just people who have generalized anxiety, or they're lost, they're confused, they have bad relationships. And those are people who really, they need to make changes to the way that they think and the way that they behave. They need to make those environmental everyday changes. And a lot of them don't even need medication, because within 2 to 3 months of adopting a different way of thinking and a different way of living, they are well on their way. They're well on their way to success.
And that's where you come in, and
I can't take credit, but I wanted to teach people the tools.
Right.